focus on what is before us right now. And I will start by saying that back in 2017, I was vice chair of the Planning Commission. Councilmember McCune was the chair. And so we lived and breathed the BVSP for quite some months. And since then, I think the following Planning Commission's councils, we all are very engaged and very happy with the vision that we put into the BVSP. And I will even go as far as to say that I think if I took the temperature of even those council members who have not yet spoken on it, that ground floor retail was something that was envisioned, that was embraced, and is something that the neighborhood and the community also embraced when we talked about the BVSP and got so much of the community input on the BVSP. That was also a long time ago, and it seems like in the last 8 years, state has come in and done a lot, and basically the whole world has changed in terms of how much cities are able to do. But I wanted to maybe set that and make that known, to get that out there, that retail at ground floor is still something that is a valuable vision that we had and a value we have in our community. That said, what is before us now, and city attorney, let me know if I'm incorrect, that we as the council as a body have to determine whether or not the disagreement here is whether the CDD determination was correct and whether or not we should override that, or somehow that's the discussion that we have. It's not about necessarily the retail on the ground floor, which I think is important for all of us to say, yes, this is something that we value and that we wish was still part of the project, but just framing the discussion of what we are supposed to be doing tonight. Is it whether or not the community development director's determination that with regard to the objective standards and the density bonus law was appropriately applied?
I actually don't think that that's quite the way to think about it. I think that the discussion about how the decision was made is important because it explains why staff made that determination in the context in which it was made, and the fact that it was driven by staff's considerable understanding of how the BVSP and the zoning ordinance work together, the interactions with HCD and the requirements for adoption of the housing element, and the actions that were taken in January 2024. That was all to provide background as to why the staff determination was made. But really what's before you tonight is this is a by right project, so this is a ministerial determination, and council essentially has to follow the law. And part of the law that the council has to follow is the Housing Accountability Act. And as I read a few moments ago, and why I said that that's not so much the question as you posed it. It's the question now is are the elements that are being brought up for reconsideration, if you will, are those elements that were not that were identified in a compliance letter or not? And the answer to that is they were not identified in a compliance letter. So under the Housing Accountability Act, you can't go back and revisit those. So I would not frame it quite that way. I would say within the lens of the Housing Accountability Act, that's not the question. The question is, within what they were told, they were in compliance with when they received that letter. Is there any other elements of have they checked all of the ministerial boxes to receive an approval at this point? It's not to go back and revisit the interpretation. I would say to do that would be inconsistent with the housing element and would expose the city to substantial penalties and attorney's fees costs.
Looking at my council colleagues, do we understand kind of what's before us in terms of what we're discussing? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because within 30 days, it was not questioned. Is that right? Because the compliance, the decisions by the community development director were not questioned within 30 days. They're now in stone.
Because in that process, staff didn't provide a written document to the applicant telling the applicant that they were not in compliance with something. Whether the staff was right or wrong is actually, at this point, academic. And the staff's interpretation, I think, is a very reasonable interpretation of the code. But that's academic at this point. What mattered is what was in the letter. I think to a certain extent there is a degree of frustration that's been expressed about this particular aspect of the Housing Accountability Act, and it is for certain a component of the act that takes away substantial local control. This ability to have a reasoned examination of these issues is no longer part of the process. And I respectfully disagree with the comments of the applicant's attorney in this respect, that the council has the ability to override that. My advice is that you do not.
Okay. So that kind of sets the baseline. Does anyone want to go first with regard to deliberation, comments, and then, of course, if you have questions that come up, please feel free to answer.